Whilst the idea of New York Town as the next Zombies map isn't overly exciting, the storyline coming with this map is some of the most exciting lore we've had in Zombies in years. So today, I'm going to be breaking down the Paradox intro. Now we've had a little bit of time to really digest it because there are a lot of moments that can fly by and can be very confusing without context. So my job in this video is to give you as much detail and fully explain everything going on. If that sounds good to you, sit back, relax, drop this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Let me know all of your thoughts and theories in the comments. Jumping straight into it, the intro reveals quite a few exciting revelations. The most obvious being a returning character, being a key story focus in this map, which is none other than Ava Jansen. Now, a few of you watching this video will be confused on who she is and what her origin story is. And that's not too surprising, because this character was introduced in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. We will get into much deeper parts of her backstory, but all you need to know for the moment is that she is the biological daughter of Samantha Maxis. Just like her mother has an intrinsic link to the Dark Ether, not only from her mother, but also because a twin version of Ava was born in the Dark Ether at the same time. But what makes this even crazier is Elizabeth Gray is her surrogate mother. And in Paradox Junction, Elizabeth Gray is going to meet Ava before she was ever even born. Throughout the events of Modern Warfare Zombies, her dark shadow, which was known as the Entity, began reaching out and making contact, resulting in Ava having hallucinations and creating dark Epha rifts in an attempt to completely possess her. Eventually, Ava along with the MW3 zombie strike team were able to destroy the Entity by severing the bond that the Entity had with Ava, as that bond would have put the world at risk from the Dark Ether. Following the Entity's death and her interest in Dr. Gay's research, she took a trip to Liberty Falls to learn more about Project Janus. After learning about an outbreak that happened in the town in 1991, which is the events of Black Ops 6, whilst on the phone, the warden appeared on a mirror in her room, disguising himself and his voice in an attempt to lure her into the Dark Ether, snatches her out of the Modern Warfare Zombies timeline in the year 2021. And after this cliffhanger ending in 2024, we're finally seeing this cliffhanger explained in 2026, where she is trapped in the warden's pocket dimension in the Dark Ether. Within the first sentences that the warden says in this intro, we learn that whilst his back was turned, Ava Jansen helped the crew free the Shadow Smiths that he calls his pets. Now, how is it possible that Ava Jansen helped our crew if she's trapped here in this pocket dimension in a cage? Well, it seems that the entity that has been helping our characters might actually be the same entity that was the dark AFAB version of Ava, aka her twin. The origin story of the entity is fairly unknown, but we know that at some point was under the control of the warden acting as his servant. On a base level, it's understood that Ava Jansen is incredibly powerful. She's the daughter of Samantha Maxis, for crying out loud. And we learned in the events of Cold War that Maxis unlocked her powers via exposure into the Dark Ether. We have no idea how long Ava has been trapped here in the Dark Ether, but in the Dark Ether, the parameters of time do not matter. And I think for however long she's been trapped in the Dark Ether, she's been able to harness ethereal power to be able to project herself across the Dark Ether. And with Ava trapped physically for however long, wouldn't it be a really smart move for her as the Entity act as his servant? As while she cannot act against him directly, 034U, she can of course influence others to do so. There are a few mysteries that haven't been explained yet in the Dark Ether, including the twins that we see reoccurring, who have to be extremely powerful beings as they rule over the realm of ashes. And Astra once the Shadow Smith has been cleansed because they become the announcers. And what do these strange twins have in common with Ava Jansen? Well, Ava Jansen also has a twin, and there is a chance that on top of that, Ava's been able to project herself as the entity to try and overthrow the warden's control over the Shadow Smiths now. Whilst that might not make complete sense at first because the entity was destroyed at the end of Modern Warfare Zombies, we can't confidently say that because those events happened in Modern Warfare Zombies, it doesn't mean that those events have happened yet, or even will happen in a linear time, because where we reside right now is a pocket dimension outside of time. The warden is extremely angry at Ava Jansen for helping the crew at this point, exclaiming that he's a righteous soldier here by divine providence, truly believing that he was sent by some higher being who is somehow above the food chain, above the warden that brought the warden into the Dark Ether, to create order where there was nothing but decay. Now this opens up the discussion for there to actually be a being that is more powerful than the warden. Who exactly that is we don't know, but there is a big gap in the origin story of the warden that could fill this in. For context here, we're dealing with the warden who was originally a soldier during the American Civil War, holding out in the town of Ashwood for an impending attack on the Union. As the warden rode to meet the Union, he noticed that several of the cavalry's horses were quickly dying because they had actually been poisoned and self-defense ran away. It turns out that the wealthy and elite that resided in Ashwood were the ones that poisoned these horses. And being a Confederate soldier, he was incredibly angry about the loss of the war. But then out of nowhere, an unknown amount of time passes where the Warden suddenly arrived in the Dark Ether extremely confused. We have no idea truly how long the Warden has been in a Dark Ether for, but it has to be an incredibly long time because he achieved total dominance over the Dark Ether, and wielding the power of the Shadow Smiths, ancient Denisonans of the Dark Ether who have existed for as long as the Dark Ether itself. But I do find it incredibly fascinating that the Warden considers himself to have been sent by some divine provident being, which makes us question if the Warden really is the villain that we think he is, or is he simply just a pawn in a much bigger game by a much more powerful villain playing the Warden like a game of chess? Like I've previously mentioned, we have no idea how the Warden even got into the Dark Ether in the first place, and in the Warden's eyes, the Dark Ether is broken and needs fixing, and reveals specifically why Ava Johnson is important in his overall goals. Because as he shreds the veil between multiple realms, Ava will stoke the flames, forging those realms into one pure existence, combining the Dark Ether and reality into one world. Another important detail to notice in this intro is that just like in Ashes of the Damned, we can see that there is physical skin damage to the Warden. There is a reason why he looks like this, and in getting just a taste of Ava Jansen's life essence, we can see elements of his skin healing. So there is also an element of the Warden not being able to survive unless he continues to seek out and feast on the life essence of important characters who have some sort of connection to the Dark Ether, or merging the Dark Ether and the real world into one could allow him to completely heal from the Dark Ether exposure. Because another core element to think about is that anyone that is trapped for any amount of time in the Dark Ether will eventually suffer from Dark Ether exposure. We saw it with Zikov in Black Ops Cold War, where after extended periods of time in the Dark Ether turned into the Forsaken, Samantha suffered nothing except unlocking her powers when she was in the Dark Ether. But it's clear that the Warden cannot survive like this, and Ava indirectly comments about this, saying the Dark Ether won't be fixed. Look at you can't even save yourself. Now, one of the coolest and most important points of this story is going to be, of course, Ava Jansen existing in 1991 before she was even born. That in itself is going to be an incredible paradox which could potentially throw the events of the Modern Warfare Zombies timeline into the realm of being an alternate timeline. But ever since we saw the intro for Modern Warfare Zombies, we know that certain events with the XRQQuam crew are guaranteed. One being that they are all dead by the year 2021. They were pulled into the Dark Ether in 1991. And we know that they all managed to escape the Dark Ether because Elizabeth Gray makes a video recording in 1996, 3 years after Ava Johnson is born. Seeing that we know that the Warden exists within Modern Warfare Zombies in 2021, but yet also exists in 1991, way before Ava Jansen is even conceived, it means surely that he has to exist after the events of Black Ops 7. But with Ava already existing here as a fully grown adult helping our crew, advancing them through their journey in the Dark Ether that brings them back out into 1993. With her existing right now helping them through that Black Ops 7 arc, there is just no way that she could then be born again in 1993. And with the various teasers we've had for this map from 115 Day, it's at least insinuated that Ava as a child grew up within this new timeline on Nuketown itself, being illustrated as a little girl playing fetch with a dog. Well, not only that, but in the Modern Warfare Zombies intro, we see the Zerequium, including Strauss, dead, but we don't see Maya dead. Strauss isn't even with our characters in the Dark Ether right now. So how exactly is Strauss going to die from Dark Ether exposure when Gray explicitly mentions in her video from 1996 that the entire crew, including Strauss, were exposed to the Dark Ether when in Black Ops 7, we don't see him in the Dark Ether at all. And this wouldn't even be the first time we've seen Black Ops 7 specifically going down the road of alternative timelines. We already know that Tank Dempsey comes from a universe where he grew up in Liberty Falls, which specifically had an observatory in the town, which got displaced into Astrobalorum. But we know from Liberty Falls and Black Ops 6 that it never had an observatory. And one step further is that we learn as well that Tank Dempsey, whilst fighting in the jungles of the Vietnam War, joined Weaver and Strauss as part of Requiem in an assignment in the jungle of Vietnam where they were attacked by a horde of zombies. This is an event that the Cold War B Black Ops 6 version of Weaver that we have in BOA 7 has not experienced, confirming that alternative timelines and universes 100% exist. So with that being said, there is a fairly strong chance that with the introduction of Paradox Junction, the events here could branch off into a different timeline separate to the one that we know very loosely of following from Modern Warfare Zombies. That or Ava being taken by the Warden in 2021 is actually at the very ending of her character arc, and her being taken and where we see her now is actually the very beginning of her story that will somehow lead into her being born as a child in 1993 in that Modern Warfare Zombies timeline, and working more as a really enclosed cycle that has to happen in order for the loose events, We know that happen in the future to actually happen. Ava's existence here is a paradox. I think whatever happens is going to be very confusing, timey-wimey. But I'm excited because I think this will really flesh out the sort of rules that we understand so far about how the dark ether works, and the idea that people being pulled from all different parts of time makes the dark ether have its own set of rules, because time is not linear in the dark ether. I would love to know your thoughts and theories in the comments section down below. Do you think this is going to create a completely new branching timeline, where the events of Modern Warfare zombies and our crew dying don't happen? What do you expect storyline-wise with Ava Jackson in this map? Yes, that is a big face in the mushroom cloud. But is that going to be our boss fight? Who knows? But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel. For more regular updates, reactions, and exciting gaming content, subscribe now and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Stay tuned for all the latest news, updates, and the full Easter egg hunt when the map drops next week.